Okay, guys? We gotta talk about some pretty big things going on in the San Francisco office market because landlords right now are getting hammered pretty hard. It's not even funny to see this because you got massive buildings worth $1 billion, essentially. And they're going to the foreclosure route. You got almost a $1 trillion of office real estate so far in California, just pretty much being evaporated through thin air. San Francisco is by far leading the charge in terms of office values going down. WeWork nears bankruptcy, leaving San Francisco landlords exposed. At one point, there's some buildings in San Francisco that have a lot of WeWork in them. And they are actually doing not that bad during the situation. Now if you guys don't know what's going on, San Francisco office mostly is probably the worst I've ever seen in the entire world. Like, people talk about how Seattle's bad, Manhattan's bad, Hong Kong, Singapore, or Tokyo is bad. I mean, San Francisco is on a whole different league in terms of bad. So WeWork actually kept many landlords afloat because WeWork took up, like, 20%, 30%, even 50% of some landlords' office spaces. And now WeWork is going broke. Their stock is at a $1.98 drop. They're filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Super early on. And we also have $1 million and $1 million of debts. We're all seeing them defaulting on a massive loan in the skyscraper industry. If you also look around here, look at all the space that they're just ditching, right? 430 California Street. You got 250,000 square feet of space they're gonna be defaulting on this. Now, if you go online and check out 430 California Street, this is a very, very good location. This isn't like a bad location at all. And WeWork is pretty much just taking the L at this point. This is right next to a transit, like a Bay Pyramid building. So the location is pretty good. And look at how fat this building is. This is probably one of the better, districts in terms of offices. And WeWork is abandoning 250,000 square feet of space. Probably like half of these floors, maybe even more. Is leaving this building exposed because they're not gonna get any new tenants. What tech company has the right mind to come to San Francisco? Maybe OpenAI and ChatGPT, but other than some of the AI companies, many of the companies and startups no longer wanna go to San Francisco to build themselves. Look at this. Another skyscraper owned by Boston Properties, WeWork leases about 15% of the square footage space. Building is currently about almost 90% leased out, but once WeWork leaves, it's gonna take a pretty heavy beating. And like I said before, these are all very, very good office buildings that have been pretty much destroyed by the pandemic. And when WeWork leaving, it's not great at all. Look at this building. This is another one that's very, very nice buildings here. Even have, like, a very nice front entrance as well, and look at how massive that is. That is a massive building. This is not small by any means. We're looking at by far multi-$1 billion landlords that are pretty much freaking out because you have 10, 20, 30% of the whole entire building now being vacant because WeWork left. So buildings initially are not on, like, default list. But what we work on, they're kinda getting on the default list. And look at all these buildings, they used to be leased out at over 90%. Now, many of these buildings that we work on, they're dropping like rocks. And if you also look at this, we were ghost bankrupt files to abandon 7 Bay Area leases because not every single lease is in San Francisco, but the rest of the Bay Area. We're seeing sky-high prices in terms of rent in many of these places. Nobody really wants to be paying, even now half a $1 million a one bedroom. Though it's way cheaper than before, people just don't wanna do that. People don't really want to pay $2,000 live in San Francisco and live like almost a homeless life. Right? Bars and restaurants are closing down. You're seeing many of these industries just leaving, and not to mention the layoffs. The layoffs are even scarier and crazier. And it really just shows you that there's no more trust in San Francisco. Just look at the new IKEA store that recently opened up. Right? This really shows you that real estate just really isn't that great. The Sarasota Eater store is now totally deserted, not because it's a bad store. In fact, I could almost argue that the San Francisco IKEA is probably one of the better ones out there. They're even trying to open up a high-end IKEA food court in them. If you have checked the San Francisco IKEA store, it's actually pretty. It's on Market Street, but there's one thing at Market Street. Market Street is just filled of homeless people, tents, drug use. It's just a whole different world. Right? It's right next to Civic Center. It's right next to Tenderloin. Margaret Street used to be okay, but now there's no more tourists. In fact, business on Margaret Street is so poor. Even San Francisco's biggest mall right here, Westview Mall, has now shut down due to 50% whopping vacancies, whereas Westview actually said that in other locations, vacancies will not hit above 8%. For San Francisco, vacancies are hitting over 50%. So even IKEA is like, they're not getting that much business. Right? And the reason why IKEA doesn't get any business on Market Street is because there's so much crime. Right? This is one of the areas where customers say there's consistent, persistent construction, but that's not even the worst of it. You know, how to lack Prague, parking, and constant crime surrounding areas, keeps a lot of these big people from shopping at this location. So IKEA pretty much wasted a store. Right? At first, San Francisco was very, very hyped up for IKEA, but there's a reason why Old Navy left. There's a reason why Whole Foods left. So it doesn't really make sense why IKEA came in, but I'm sure they regret it because this store is not making them any sales or any sort of business, and they're pretty mad about that. I'm sure they want their money back. But, hey, it's a capitalist market. IKEA is just gonna have to deal with it. They made a bad decision to open a store right next to a massive homeless encampment. So if you look at this, there's troubling data that shows 34% of a downtown center, so the office space is empty. And the scary part is this isn't even like an accurate depiction of the vacancy rates, because you look at WeWork, for example. Right? They're dropping out of the race, but remember, that's because they're going bankrupt. Many offices, like 181 Fremont, half a 1 million square feet, is still technically occupied by Facebook. So that number is gonna be added onto the vacancy list. That's because they're leased at the end until 2031, but the office workers have already left. And instead, if you shift your attention away from the 34% downtown vacancy, which is insanely bad, like, we're talking about some 2008 type level bad, shift away from this and look at the amount of office workers in San Francisco. Businesses and bars are saying that there's 50% left. Business in terms of bookings of restaurants and bookings of bars and clubs. And that pretty much shows you very well that many of the offices were in downtown San Francisco, just no longer come back. They've lost around 150,000 office employees. Yes. 150K. Office employees no longer commute to San Francisco for work. Many of them working online, and now you have high interest rates, which is also causing one major aspect, which is here. Lots and lots of layoffs. It's not just the Amazon workers, but you also have the small family restaurants, small family businesses. And more importantly, guys like Adobe's laying off employees, Uber's laying off employees, Salesforce, laying off employees, and you guys have been following the news anywhere. Just type in tech layoffs. You're gonna be seeing massive amounts of companies laying off 1,000 and 1,000 of workers. We're seeing one of the biggest layoffs, one of the fastest upticks of unemployment from 3.3 to 3.9%, and it matters just a couple months. The unemployment rate is taken up super duper fast. And I kinda see why co-working spaces are no longer popular. And also, WeWork themselves just also really over-leverage themselves, which causes massive disruption. So the office market is fully disrupted, right? WeWork is near bankruptcy. WeWork is gone. We're now gonna be seeing even more scratch covers being added on the default alert list. Get ready. Thanks so much, guys. Come below and see you later.